So ultimately, I'm not sure if it's source, right? But today it is definitely like a air of sadness within my thought process, or at least within my emotional, metaphysical, or morphogenetic field, right? Within my morphogenetic field, my physical morphogenetic field, there seems to be an air of sadness lingering around, and I'm not too sure as to exactly its particular source. I think that in life, spiritually, or not even spiritually, just psychologically, today I'll be discussing spiritual contexts, but I think that it's quite difficult to be in a position, and it actually takes a lot of discipline and strength to be in a position wherein if you are pushed, whether be it directly or indirectly, to not react in a particular way, or to react in a way that's favorable to the situation. Right. So I think this is a difficult thing, but something that one has to be able to do in order to get the most, or to get the most from life. And again, like as I say, it takes a lot of strength and discipline, not only physically but also mentally. So I'm quite lacking in that sense. But I think that also my general routine has changed to a degree in relation to how I approach things. So the content that I consume had been a bit different over the past weeks or so. But I definitely try to mix it up. I think it's definitely important for me to have a varied diet of content that I consume in relation to, be it entertainment, be it self-attainment in terms of self-understanding, conceptualizing reality, and other things. And if I do that, I think I'll be stable enough. If I don't do that, then I feel a sense of lacking, and I feel a sense of disbalance in relation to who I may be and what I may be about. And I think that also, depending on your state of thought and the things that you're experiencing, social things can inhibit that, because they also play a part in your thought process. And I think that's why a lot of things like solitude are necessary when it comes to dealing with things of the mind, dealing with things of the soul. Because when you conceptualize the notion of social aspects, it actually inhibits and takes away from your utilization of these things based on various aspects, by having to factor those things into your thought processes and other such factors. So I think that's definitely important. But overall, there is a sense of sadness originating from self today, and I think I need to better try and understand where that's coming from. But I think maybe it might just be the lack of experience in terms of the environment, and not getting the best or the most from it. Though I feel that what I am getting from it is somewhat adequate. Yeah, but before we get into today's topic, it's just something I wanted to just delve into, because it's definitely something that's on one's chest, or within one's morphogenetic field. And it's a continuous process in which I think that sometimes we can lack to understand the blessings that we have. And so that's pretty much it really for now, and then we'll sort of further explore these things in relation to what it is one seeks to express in thought and knowledge. So the key topic, I believe, is just sort of going into the understanding. I think it's definitely important to extrapolate and give the correct notion, right, in relation to how I can't give a full explanation as to the structure of things, but I can definitely say that there's a spiritual connotation to everything, and all the there's a spiritual connotation to everything, right? But it's up to us to be able to extrapolate from what we have available and use that to ultimately give a better picture of the wider scope of things. For me personally, I know that the teachings that I have in relation to, for example, right, when you look at Judaism, I think that as a religion, as a methodology, so when people come to God, right, when people come to religion, they're looking for a clear path of approaching living, right? Guidance in the darkness of life. So the philosophical stuff is quite distant from it, and that's why probably some people have been, shy, sort of turned away from the church perspective, simply because of this philosophical nature of it, because it's not really in the terms associated with the overall religious context of things, right? So people might actually find that to be a bit more disastrous to some degree. Now, what one should contemplate, right, is that you can approach it from a philosophical perspective, but you have to be in the right circles to do so. And when you do so, you have to be prepared for just, obviously, not to silo yourself with the philosophical concept of always in the continuous process of asking the question why, but you got to open yourself up to the wider field of things and how God ultimately relates to that. Because what we have to understand is that, also again relating to what I mentioned prior about the Kaaba, is that there's only one truth, right? And I think when you lose sight of that, then you become lost. But actually, finding that one truth is the difficulty in everything, and is one of the main things that we think that is it's finding that's the key thing in all our understandings, right? So there's only one truth, right? But actually approaching that truth is quite different, because the angles in which you can approach it is forever changing, and is always dynamic, but it has to be continuous and consistent within each field or each view of perception, right? Though it might look slightly different or be understood slightly differently from different perspectives. So, I went a bit and spoke prior about the so-called Neanderthals and ancient peoples and things of that nature, and how it's important for us to be able to conceptualize how we can be connected to them, and ultimately they may be connected to us, but in ways that we can't ultimately fully comprehend with our thought processes. But ultimately we are connected to them, and for us to be correctly connected to them and in what they're doing, we have to be able to be in the position of a, it's more than just it's more than just having control over a less, or what you may consider to be a lesser being, because I did mention how the Doppler effect and things of that nature, and everything is like a stream of, it's intriguing, but obviously, of course, you don't impede over people's free will, but they definitely feel and sense one's attention and all that type of stuff. So all this there is like, basically you can utilize them to access channels in the past and to gain knowledge and insights in those environments, and likewise, but the way that time connects is all differential because of the way that the biological nature of the living processes. So for example, if one is to travel from one point to another utilizing, let's say, a train, for example, you're going to get there quicker by train, whereas in the past it's more so difficult. But due to the extension in relation to time, and also whatever means of travel were available at that particular point in that particular avenue. You know, you have that capability to do that, but the time itself recalculates itself differently. And when time ends or time begins, that's all variable things that you shouldn't really delve into at this moment in time. But obviously, I don't want to get too much about utilizing past and present, and also getting people in the future utilize us as we are present here. But it's complicated. It doesn't impede on free will, but it's like, you know, it's a unified thought that moves, and it's more so, and it's that thought that actually utilizes the biological concepts and things of that nature. Right. That's pretty much that. I might go deeper into it at another point in time, but for now, I think that's just, you know, that's just the relevance. It's just relevant to have an understanding of that, and that notion, understanding that those beings are actually there to guide us as well, in the past and also in the present to some degree, but it's more so complicated. Now, what I think is important, right, to understand also about this is you know, the religious context. Every single religious thing that you look at has a different aspect on how an individual, you know, there's a different aspect on an individual. So, for example, the Kaaba, for example, not just Judaism, but the Torah in itself, right? Is it Kabbalah? Yeah, Kabbalah. You know, all that type of stuff, bro. Like, look, I ain't gonna lie to you, yeah. The way it works is basically, it's like these type of stuff, these Judaism stuff, right? It actually proves itself to you, right? And you gotta be cautious when approaching that. Like, it proves itself to you. That's crazy from my viewpoint. Because for me, I've definitely seen this. Like I'm telling you, right? These things that I'm saying right now, they can all be corroborated if you actually explore them properly. And I ain't lying to you, yo. This shit is real, but it's getting into the point of actually measuring it. That's the difficulty in our belief in the spirituality, right? So measuring it is part of the difficult part, but the reality of it is legit, you know. And I personally don't know how to approach it, but for me, it definitely proved itself to me, right? And for me, being by myself, it's kind of like, it's difficult because it's like, belief is a group thing. But you know, but you can't be, and me saying that is actually kind of silly, because, you know, a stone throws away, there's probably a temple, there's probably some type of belief mechanism, you know, or group of believers, be it in Christ, be it in Allah, or Christ, Allah, or Muhammad, whatever, be it in Allah, or be it in some other conceptual deity, is not far, like it's findable. So it's not about solely having the belief to my own self, right? So that's definitely one thing. But I think that I ultimately in my heart of heart, yeah, like, know these things to be true, and I ain't gonna sway or tell anyone that they ain't, because they've definitely proved themselves to me. And I think that, you know, depending on what your understanding you're seeking, right, you always be given it. 120%, man. Angels, all that, it's all legit stuff, man. It ain't, and you know, it relates to the world in an amazing way, and you know, you yourself are the connection to that. So if, for example, right, you're like, it's crazy. Like, for example, right, we know that there's these rules that have been given, right, to guide you throughout life, and they're dynamic in the way that you can understand them. And like, unfortunately, right, people aren't gonna follow them. Like, you ain't gonna follow them, and people will take it for granted, for whatever. But for me, I would always urge you, right, to, for example, you know, like no sex before marriage. Like, what I would like to say is that always place an importance to that, right? Always place a value to the nut and appreciate the thing, right? Appreciation is valuable, so valuable, man. I ain't gonna just, I don't know, man. Like, I'm not really one of those highly sexually experienced people who fuck like shit types of people, amount of people, or this, that, and the other. Nor am I really a player or anything like that, but I'd always say that, just appreciate it and value it, and try not to, I don't know, man. It's difficult to even put into contemplation because I can't give these rule sets, but I can only give things from my own understanding and failures in life. And I would just say that obviously try to find that value in that. Don't squander the nut, right? And always appreciate it and take it for something that's actually meaningful rather than just, in exchange of body fluid or just approaching to that goal of just being able to nut or whatever. You have to be in it full body. And I do understand sometimes you just want to rack out them quickies and whatnot, but you got to be in it full body and mind. And if you can, spirit as well, right? And if you do that, I promise you, right, even if you're doing it outside of marriage, with that you have a lesser chance of, not that it damages you, but you have a lesser chance of spiritually damaging yourself or others. So it's like, oh yeah, well, scientifically speaking, we do not see how this can be damaging. It is just an act of, but I get you, I understand you all, man, but I feel that psychologically speaking, you'll be in a better position. That's my approach to it. Just like, for example, in life, right, like taking a poo in public, right, that's a difficult thing to do. And I don't care about wherever you are, it's just taking a poo, scientifically speaking, right? But with people watching you, it's difficult, and that's what I mean, right? That's what I mean. But let's get away from that. Let's just ignore this stuff for now. So that's pretty much it. But again, it's like the Kabbalah, it's legit, fam. Like, it's spiritual shit, like some psycho, highly potent, and it works because it proves itself to you. Like, you just start to see weird shit, and like the stuff right here, the book of creation, the book of formation, bro. Look. This shit, even if you just intend to read that book, time will break. That's number one, right? And you won't understand what happened, right? Time is the first thing, right? Forget that. That's out the window, right? Forget the fictional notion of time travel, bro. Like, bro, that's number one, fam. Oh God, man, I'm like, no, that's the stuff for yesterday, bro. The book of illumination, bruh. I'm just like, oh man. These people know and understand this stuff, and the purer you are, the closer you become to it, spiritual spirits and entities and all that type of stuff. And because the thing is, you won't believe it, and so it will prove itself to you, right? And you gotta be in a pure state of being, if you can. If you're gonna approach that pure state of being even better, it'll prove itself to you. That's the first bit. And if you're worried about enemies and stuff and all that type of stuff, yeah, of course you will be worried about it because you're in an environment where it's a new state of being. So some of the safety things that you find to be things that ultimately make you safe might become somewhat far removed. And you won't understand it, and you won't know if these beings can also understand it. And that's where the difficulty comes, right? Because you don't actually know if these beings ultimately understand it. Now, when it comes to Jesus and all that type of stuff, I personally feel, of course, cool, blood of Jesus works out, but there's so much more to it that a lot of people are missing. And it's akin to, for example, using Windows and Linux, right? And I think that's the difference that we try to approach here when we look at it. And you know, even just like the things from the past, you have access to a plethora of things, right? But you have to be willing to actually explore the knowledge further and get into the documentation and things like that. But I assure you this, and I don't understand these beings. They freak me the fuck out. They even freak me the fuck out. I don't trust them, man. Right? I'm like, am I gonna get like am I gonna get fucking spiritually molested? You know, are they gonna spiritually put me in a bad place? And I don't even remember them. That's how peak it is, right? I don't even remember them. Don't even know their purpose, right? But I don't know what their view. Cause I'm usually in a position when I have an understanding of the opposite side, right? So I get the opposite side continuously, right? It's like I always have an understanding of the viewpoint of me from the opposite side. Whereas with these beings and spirits and that, I have no clue, fam. No clue. And I just know that they're there and they're in existence. And, you know, I don't know, man. I don't even know, man. I don't even know how to approach them. And I don't even remember them as well. But I feel like they remember or know me, right? From even before I was born. Right? And then God in all this is so far removed. Like I can't even approach that state of being. You know, because I myself I'm quite corrupted in terms of just my body, the way that it's been, you know, some of the things and actions that I've been undertaking, some of the substances that I've been taking, which aren't clean and pure, you know, even little things like, you know, like I'm not going to get into that right now from the shitting about that, but again, at the same time, it's all these things that come into play, you know, so I would always say just, you know, explore, you know, I'll definitely say, you know, it's up to you, whoever you are, whatever your feelings of spirituality are, you know, and everything has its potency. For me at the moment, I'm leaning towards the Israel side of things because, you know, I feel quite safe and understanding of that region of things, but it's definitely way more. There's, even when you look at the Islamic side, you're going to find a lot of different correlations. Same information, but just slightly different, right? Slightly twisted, like the reality changes slightly, but we are aware of which changes occurred. So like it changed just enough to still be the same thing, right? And there's like things like Sufi Muslim or Islam, which is what I'll probably be an exploration from. So I'll probably look at the literature and the theory and stuff. Right, but I don't actually engage in the physical aspect of some of the actual incantations and things like that. So I make my presence known to the spiritual world, but I don't directly, ultimately interact with it in other ways because, you know, even though I'm a grown man, in this world I'm merely a child. You know, I'm literally merely a child or a toddler to that degree who has influence and understanding of the world and can break and damage things. But then my guardian angels basically look to me and protect me and guide me, you know, even in things that I don't know nor understand. And I think that's a powerful and spiritual thing, you know. And I'm happy to be able to find this world and things like that. And I'm also happy for the you know, for these Jewish people and who have preserved this knowledge and extended it onwards, etc. And there's a bunch of mad corruption going on in that environment, and they suffered a lot, etc. Like black people had to go through fucking, bruv, it was madness, right? So they had to go through these. A large pool of the genetic process got lost, right? And then that genetic pool of etc. got modified over a period of like several hundred years. This was obviously done by, I wouldn't say Americans, right? It wasn't Americans who did this, right? We cannot agree it wasn't naturally Americans. There's a lot more to this than, and there's people that will attest and express all they wish to about this, but we'll get to those people in a different time, which for me, I found them at a very interesting time, but my trust levels towards them was very deterred you know. But we can talk about that differently. So you know, these people had World War. Yeah, they had the World Wars, and they use that as a reference point to say, yeah, they suffered, been through some stuff, but black people, we took a heavy hit. But I think we're doing okay, you know, even though we're doing okay, even though the structure was heavily damaged, and a lot of the genetic and everything else stuff was heavily damaged. And yeah, but I think we did okay. You know, I think ultimately we did okay. You know, we're recovering from this at a decent pace. Yeah, man. But we'll talk about that later, man. It's not really a topic for now. And yeah, that's pretty much it. But like I'm saying, right, there's all this content there, man. I'm happy to have access to it. You know, even though it was lost, the fact that it's preserved, right? And these things and beings actually know and understand and respect and actually get who one is, I feel like that's valid and definitely very key in all things. And I'm just, you know, I'm coming to that awakened state of being, you know. And yeah, and no, man, and even though, you know, like I don't know, man, like but you know, man's just limping along, cause, and I'm happy about parts of that, you know, just that the information is there at least. But yeah, I'm telling you, man, it proves itself to you. So if you want, you can always explore it, you know. And I promise you that, you know, this content that will change the world and your understanding of it, and whether you accept it or not, man, I don't know what happens whether you accept it or not, but personally for me, I acknowledge it. You know, I acknowledge it. I acknowledge the existence of angels. I acknowledge the existence of these spiritual things, and for me to ignore them would be completely, you know, nonsense. And to, you know, to ignore something that you know is true is in a sense aspectual insanity. So for me, I can't do that, but I acknowledge it to a point where I gain a deeper understanding, and then maybe at some point in time I'll be able to fully grasp and fully conceptualize what that is, or the meaning behind it, or the value I can glean from it. Yeah, that's pretty much it for now. But yeah, I would advise you all, man, check it out. There's ideally nothing to lose in my. Well, I don't know. It's up to you. But from this is only what I can tell you, as my experience. As my experience in all this. Though it's been difficult, and I do trust in those beings. You know, and I make mistakes. You know, I might tell a lie here or there, or I might consume something here or there that I. You know, all this and that, but ultimately it's just coming into that truth and coming into that understanding over time. You know, and that's pretty much it. Yeah, if you have any questions, so just feel free to comment, you know, and I'll further extrapolate or go into detail regarding these things. Or just, yeah, feel free to comment or get in touch or whatever it is that or whatever it is that you feel is necessary. But as I mentioned earlier on today, I didn't feel like in the right place or in the right sense of being, but I think it's okay now, and I feel happy and I'm somewhat spiritually fulfilled in my viewpoint. At least from the work that I've done today and things like that, it seems I seem to be in a reasonably logically place in my viewpoint anyway. So